In 2025, Sapphic representation on TV has never been more vibrant. From period dramas to supernatural thrillers, these 10 shows prove that love knows no boundaries. Whether you're craving the historical romance or the supernatural intensity, each series offers unique perspectives on queer love stories. This is Sapphic Nook, and without any delay, let's explore the top 10 Sapphic TV shows worth watching. A League of Their Own. It's 1943, and while the men are away at war, women across America are stepping up to the plate, literally. A League of Their Own isn't just another period drama. It's a masterclass in how to tell stories about love that history tried to erase. And let me tell you, the way this show handles romance is like watching someone perfect a curveball. Subtle, precise, and absolutely stunning when it connects. At the heart of our story is Carson Shaw, a catcher from a small town who arrives in Chicago with a wedding ring on her finger and uncertainty in her heart. Then there's Greta, whose confidence masks a lifetime of learning to hide who she really is. Their chemistry? It's like watching a perfect game unfold. Every glance, every almost touch building towards something extraordinary. But here's where it gets interesting, folks. While most sports shows focus on the game-winning moments, A League of Their Own shows us the game-changing ones. There's this scene in the locker room early in the season where Carson and Greta are the last two players remaining. The tension builds like the seventh inning stretch, except nobody's relaxed. When Greta helps Carson adjust her stance for batting practice, their fingers brush, and you can practically hear both their hearts skip a beat. The beauty of this show lies in how it handles these moments. We're not just watching a love story, we're watching people discover who they truly are. Take Max Chapman's storyline, a talented black pitcher who faces double discrimination for both her race and her identity. Her journey to find community in the Negro Leagues while exploring her feelings for her friend Esther is handled with such care and authenticity that you can't help but root for her happiness. The show doesn't shy away from the reality of being queer in the 1940s. Our characters find refuge in secret bars, communicate through coded language, and live with the constant fear of being discovered. But, and this is crucial, it's never trauma porn. Instead, we see the joy, the liberation, and the sheer exhilaration of finding your people. There's this absolutely gorgeous scene where our players discover an underground queer nightclub and watching their faces as they realize they're not alone. Pure magic. What makes this show particularly special is how it balances the personal with the political. While Carson and Greta are navigating their feelings, they're also fighting to keep their team alive. The Rockford Peaches aren't just playing baseball, they're proving that women can be strong, capable, and extraordinary. The sapphic elements of the story aren't just subtext, they're woven into the fabric of these women's determination to live authentically in a world that wants them to play by outdated rules. The genius of A League of Their Own is that it never feels like it's trying to make a statement. Instead, it simply shows us what has always been true. That love, in all its forms, has existed throughout history. These women aren't just playing America's favorite pastime. They're living, loving, and refusing to be forgotten. And just like the real women who inspired this story, they're knocking it out of the park. The Last of Us. Okay, grab your backpacks and emotional support blankets because we need to talk about The Last of Us and how it manages to tell some of the most beautiful love stories I've ever seen on TV, and does it in the middle of a fungal apocalypse, no less. Like, imagine finding your soulmate while running from mushroom zombies. That's some next-level romance right there. Let's start with Ellie's first love story, because honestly, it's the one that hits you right in the feels. Remember Riley? That episode, Left Behind, isn't just good television. It's a masterpiece in showing how love can bloom in the most hopeless places. Picture this: two teenage girls in a world that's literally falling apart, finding a moment of pure joy in an abandoned mall. It's like they carved out this perfect bubble of normalcy in a world that's anything but normal. The way the show handles their relationship is just chef's kiss. We're talking about stolen glances, inside jokes, and that absolutely magical scene where they dance together under twinkling lights. And can we talk about that arcade moment when Riley brings that joy back into Ellie's life? You can literally see the walls coming down. It's not just about two girls falling in love. It's about finding someone who makes you feel alive when everything around you is dead. But here's where The Last of Us really shows its brilliance. Fast forward to season 2, and we meet Dina. Now, this isn't your typical new love interest situation. The show takes its time, letting their relationship develop naturally through shared experiences, witty banter, and those quiet moments where they're just existing together. Their first kiss during that barn dance? Pure electricity. But what makes it special isn't just the romance, it's how real it feels. Think about it. They're living in this settlement where every day could be their last, but their biggest concern in that moment is whether someone might see them. It's these very human moments that make the show so relatable. They're not just surviving, they're trying to live, to love, to be themselves in a world that's lost most of its humanity. The way Ellie and Dina's relationship evolves is like watching a flower grow through concrete. It shouldn't be possible, but it's happening right before our eyes. They go from partners watching each other's backs to partners in every sense of the word. And let's be honest, their dynamic is everything. Dinah's warmth perfectly balances Ellie's sharp edges, and when they're together, you almost forget they're living in a post-apocalyptic nightmare. But what really sets these love stories apart is how the show never treats them as special or different. They're just love stories, presented with the same depth, complexity, and respect as any other relationship in the series. The tension doesn't come from their identity. It comes from the very real danger of losing someone you love in a world where loss is an everyday occurrence. In the end, The Last of Us isn't just telling sapphic love stories. It's telling human stories. Stories about finding light in the darkness, about holding on to hope when everything seems hopeless, and about the kind of love that makes you brave enough to face whatever horrors the world throws at you. Because sometimes, the most rebellious thing you can do is simply love openly and honestly, even when the world's gone mad. Yellowjackets. Let's talk about Yellowjackets, a show that proves sometimes the scariest thing isn't surviving a plane crash in the wilderness, it's surviving your own heart. If you're looking for your typical survival story, honey, keep walking. This is something far more delicious and complex. A high school soccer team's plane goes down in the middle of nowhere. Already intense, right? But what makes this show truly exceptional isn't just the how will they survive of it all. It's the way it weaves these incredibly tender, complex relationships into a story that could have just been Lord of the Flies with soccer cleats. Let's start with Shauna and Jackie, because their relationship is like watching ice slowly crack beneath your feet, beautiful and terrifying all at once. On the surface, they're best friends, but there's something else there, something electric that neither of them fully acknowledges. It's in the way Shauna looks at Jackie when she thinks no one's watching, in the way their fingers linger just a second too long when they pass each other supplies. It's the kind of relationship that makes you hold your breath, waiting for something to break. But this show isn't just about teenage crushes in the woods. As our survivors descend deeper into wilderness madness, we watch Natalie and Lottie develop this fascinating dynamic that's part attraction, part spiritual connection, and part, oh my God, are we actually going to eat people? Their relationship evolves from wariness to something much more complex, especially as Lottie starts having her visions and Natalie becomes her unlikely anchor to reality. The genius of Yellowjackets is how it treats these relationships with such care, even as everything around them descends into chaos. These aren't just forbidden love stories thrown in for shock value, they're deeply human connections forming in an inhuman situation. When you're stranded in the wilderness, facing starvation and possible death, who you love becomes both more complicated and simpler than ever. Season 2 cranks up both the horror and the heart. As the group splinters and reforms, we see how love can be both salvation and destruction. The way Shauna carries her grief for Jackie like a second skin, the growing intensity between Natalie and Lottie as they navigate their roles in the group's descent into ritualistic behavior. It's all handled with this incredible sensitivity that makes you forget you're watching a show about teenage cannibals. And let's talk about Season 3, where everything gets turned up to 11. The mystery of the Antler Queen becomes this amazing metaphor for power, love, and sacrifice. Watching Natalie potentially step into this role while dealing with her feelings for Lottie? Chef's kiss. It's like watching a love story written in blood and painted in starlight. What makes these relationships so compelling is how naturally they develop. There's no big coming out moment, no dramatic declarations of love. Because when you're fighting for survival in the wilderness, who has time for that? Instead, we get these quiet moments of connection. Shared blankets on cold nights, silent understanding during hunting expeditions. The way they hold each other through the terror of what they're becoming. The beauty of Yellowjackets is that it never sensationalizes these relationships. They're just as natural as the horror that surrounds them, whether it's Shauna's unspoken feelings for Jackie or the intense spiritual meets physical connection between Natalie and Lottie. Each relationship feels earned and real. These aren't just plot points. They're lifelines in a story about survival, identity, and what happens when society's rules no longer apply. In the end, Yellowjackets shows us that love, in all its forms, can bloom in the darkest places. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's desperate, and sometimes it's tinged with blood and terror. But it's always, always real. And maybe that's what makes the show so addictive. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, our hearts keep beating, keep wanting, keep loving. So yes, Yellowjackets is a show about survival, about ritual, about the darkness that lives in all of us. But at its core, it's about love. Messy, complicated, beautiful love that refuses to die, even when everything else has gone to hell. And isn't that the kind of story worth telling? White Lotus. Welcome to the White Lotus, where paradise isn't just a place, it's a perfect facade hiding the messiest, most fascinating human stories you can imagine. Let's start our journey in Season 1's Hawaiian paradise, where everything looks perfect on the surface. Emphasis on looks. Remember Rachel and Shane? On paper, they're living the dream. Gorgeous honeymoon, expensive resort, picture-perfect romance. But the show brilliantly peels back those layers to reveal something far more interesting. Rachel's growing realization that she's trapped in a gilded cage, questioning not just her marriage but her entire identity. But the real hidden gem is the story of Paula and Kai. Their romance isn't just about attraction, it's about two people finding connection across the divide of class and privilege. Every stolen moment between them feels electric because there's so much at stake. The way they have to sneak around, finding quiet moments in the shadows of this luxury resort, adds this gorgeous layer of tension to their story. It's like watching a dance where both partners know the music will eventually stop. Then there's Tanya, bless her heart, finding an unexpected connection with Greg. Their relationship is this beautiful reminder that love can find us even when we're at our lowest, wrapped in grief and uncertainty. The way they build their connection through shared vulnerability is like watching someone slowly open a window to let in fresh air. It's gentle, it's careful, and it changes everything. But hold on to your Mai Tais, because Season 2 takes us to Sicily, and honey, that's where things get really interesting. The show shifts gears to give us one of the most fascinating dynamics we've seen. Harper and Daphne. Their relationship starts as this subtle dance of curiosity and connection, growing into something that defies easy categorization. What makes Harper and Daphne's story so compelling is how naturally it unfolds. There's no dramatic revelation, no big moment. Instead, we get these small, electric instances where their eyes meet a little too long, where their conversations drift into territory that's just a bit too personal. The tension builds like a slow tide coming in. You barely notice it until you're already swept up in it. The genius of the White Lotus is how it treats these relationships with such careful attention. Nothing is sensationalized or played for shock value. Instead, each connection feels painfully real, whether it's Rachel's suffocation in her perfect marriage, Paula and Kai's forbidden romance, or Harper and Daphne's complex dynamic. The show understands that sometimes the most powerful love stories are the ones that exist in the spaces between words, in glances across crowded rooms, in moments of quiet understanding. What makes these stories so addictive is how they're woven into the larger tapestry of privilege, power, and paradise. Every relationship is colored by the world these characters inhabit. A world where appearances matter more than truth, where wealth can buy everything except genuine connection. Yet love, in all its forms, keeps finding ways to break through these artificial barriers. Harley Quinn. Let's talk about the Harley Quinn animated series because, honey, this isn't just your average supervillain show. It's literally one of the most beautiful love stories ever told in animation. And the best part? It all starts with a breakup. Remember when Harley was just Joker's girlfriend? Yeah, Season 1 throws that right out the window, and thank goodness it does. We meet Harley at her lowest point, fresh from breaking up with Mr. J, and let me tell you, watching her rebuild herself is like watching a phoenix rise from the ashes, if that phoenix wore pigtails and had a thing for baseball bats. But here's where it gets interesting. Enter Poison Ivy. Now, if you're thinking, oh, just another friendship storyline, hold on to your mallets because this is where the magic happens. From the very first moment these two share the screen, there's this electricity, this chemistry that's just chef's kiss. But what makes it beautiful is how natural it feels. There's no forced drama, no sudden revelations, just two people slowly realizing they're falling in love. Season 2 is where things really start cooking. While Harley's figuring out who she is without the Joker, Ivy's right there beside her, rolling her eyes at Harley's chaos, but always having her back. Their relationship grows like one of Ivy's plants, slowly, steadily, and then suddenly it's blooming right in front of our eyes. the way they support each other, challenge each other, and make each other better. That's what real love looks like, folks. Can we talk about season 3? Because this is where the show really digs deep into both characters' emotional baggage. Watching Harley and Ivy navigate their past traumas together is like watching a masterclass in emotional support. There's this beautiful moment where they literally enter Batman's mind together, and it becomes this metaphor for how they're always willing to dive into the darkest parts of each other's psyche, holding hands the whole way through. By season 4, their relationship has evolved into something so rich and complex that it puts most live-action romances to shame. They're not just girlfriends, they're partners in crime, literally, emotional support systems, and each other's biggest cheerleaders. The show doesn't shy away from showing them work through their issues, whether it's Harley confronting her villainous nature or Ivy dealing with her trust issues. What makes this love story so special is how honest it is. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, though there are plenty of explosions, because hello, it's still Gotham. It's about the small moments. Ivy making sure Harley eats something other than candy for breakfast. Harley learning to name all of Ivy's plants, the way they look at each other when they think no one's watching. And let's be real. Their relationship is revolutionary, not just because it's a same-sex couple in a mainstream animated series, but because of how naturally it's portrayed. There's no special episode about coming out, no very special moment where they have to justify their love. They just are, and that's beautiful. The show takes us on this incredible journey from Harley being defined by her toxic relationship with Joker to finding real, healthy love with Ivy. It's a story about growth, about healing, about finding someone who loves you, not despite your chaos, but because of it. Their love story isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes involves way too many explosions. But that's what makes it feel so real. By the end, what we're left with isn't just a story about two supervillains falling in love. It's a story about finding yourself, about healing from past trauma, and about building a love that makes you stronger. Harley and Ivy's relationship is proof that sometimes the best love stories don't start with love at first sight. They start with friendship, grow through understanding, and blossom into something absolutely extraordinary. Heartstopper. If you're looking for a show that will literally make your heart stop, restart, and then fill it with so much warmth you might burst, welcome to Heartstopper. This isn't your typical high school drama. It's like someone took all the good, pure things in the world and wove them into a story about first love, self-discovery, and the courage it takes to be yourself. Let's start with season 1, where we meet Charlie Spring, our shy, sweet bean, who's already out but still carrying the weight of past bullying on his shoulders. Enter Nick Nelson, the golden retriever of a human being who's about to turn Charlie's world and his own upside down in the most beautiful way possible. Their story starts so softly, stolen glances in the hallway, fingers accidentally brushing during rugby practice. Those moments where your heart feels like it's doing gymnastics in your chest. What makes this season so special is how it captures that feeling of falling in love for the first time. You know that feeling when you're not sure if they like you back, when every text makes your heart race, when you're trying to figure out if you're reading too much into every little interaction. Nick's journey of discovering his bisexuality is handled with such care and authenticity. It's not a crisis, it's an awakening. Meanwhile, Charlie's learning that maybe, just maybe, he deserves the kind of love he's always dreamed about. But Heartstopper isn't just about Nick and Charlie. We've got Tara and Darcy showing us what established sapphic love looks like in high school, dealing with the challenges of being out and proud. Their story reminds us that coming out isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey that requires courage every single day. Season 2 dives deeper into everyone's stories, especially tackling mental health with such gentle honesty it might make you cry, in a good way. Charlie's struggles with body image and the lasting impact of bullying show us that healing isn't linear. Nick's journey of coming out to the world proves that sometimes the scariest part of love is letting other people see it. The way the show handles intimacy is just chef's kiss. Every milestone, from hand-holding to first kisses to deeper physical connections, is treated with such respect and care. There's no rush, no pressure, just two people figuring out what feels right for them. It's like watching a masterclass in consent and communication, wrapped in the softest, most romantic package possible. By season 3, our hearts are fully invested in these characters' journeys. Charlie's therapy journey becomes this beautiful testament to the importance of asking for help. Nick wrestling with university choices while trying to balance his love for Charlie. That's the kind of real-life tension that makes this show so authentic. Season 4 brings us to this beautiful place where love isn't just about romantic relationships. It's about choosing yourself, supporting your friends, and building the future you want. Nick, choosing a local university isn't just about staying close to Charlie. It's about making choices that align with your heart while still growing as a person. Dickinson. 1850s Massachusetts meets modern rebellion. Dickinson isn't your grandmother's period drama. It's a wild ride through the mind of America's most enigmatic poet, complete with pop music and perfect chaos. At its heart beats a love story that would make Shakespeare swoon. Emily Dickinson and Sue Gilbert aren't just best friends, they're soulmates caught in an impossible situation. When Sue gets engaged to Emily's brother Austin, things get complicated. Their stolen glances could power a small town, and their secret meetings in Emily's bedroom. Pure poetry. The chemistry between Haley Steinfeld's Emily and Ella Hunt's Sue crackles like lightning in a bottle. One moment they're exchanging heated literary criticism, the next they're exchanging even more heated looks. Sue becomes Emily's muse, her only one, inspiring some of the most passionate poetry ever written in an attic bedroom. What makes their love story extraordinary is how it weaves through everything. Emily's rebellion against her family's expectations, her fierce determination to write, her wild imagination that sees death as a sexy carriage driver. Every poem becomes a secret message, every touch a revolution against the proper society that surrounds them. Watch how Emily and Sue communicate through poetry, turning words into weapons of love. Their relationship isn't just about romance, it's about two women refusing to let their time period define them. Even when Sue marries Austin, their connection burns bright enough to light up all of Amherst. The genius of Dickinson? It takes this forbidden historical love story and makes it feel urgently, brilliantly alive. Between anachronistic dance parties and literary salon drama, Emily and Sue's love remains the steady heartbeat of the show, proving that some feelings are truly timeless. Euphoria. Imagine a love story so raw and honest it makes your heart ache. That's what Euphoria gives us with Rue and Jules. Their story isn't your typical romance, it's messy, intense, and painfully real. When Jules breezes into town like a glitter tornado, Rue's world shifts on its axis. Here's Rue, fresh out of rehab, barely holding it together, when she meets this ethereal girl who makes the world feel less heavy. Their first meeting? Electric. It's like watching two stars collide in slow motion. Beautiful, but you know there's going to be fallout. Their love story unfolds like a fever dream. Late-night bike rides, secret meetings, shared moments that feel stolen from time itself. But here's the thing. While they're falling in love, they're both fighting their own battles. Rue's dancing with demons called addiction, while Jules is navigating her identity in a world that's not always kind to girls like her. Season 2 hits different. The honeymoon phase crashes into reality like a wrecking ball. We watch Rue struggle with sobriety, using love like a lifeline. Jules becomes both anchor and storm, trying to save someone who might not be ready to be saved. It's the kind of love that burns bright enough to light up the darkness, but also hot enough to leave scars. What makes this story special isn't just the representation, it's the honesty. No sugarcoating, no perfect endings. Just two young women trying to figure out who they are, who they love, and how to survive in a world that sometimes feels too heavy to bear. The way they look at each other, like they're sharing secrets the rest of the world isn't ready to hear. And through it all, the highs, the lows, the relapses, the reconciliations, their connection remains this pulsing, living thing. Even when they're apart, you can feel the gravity between them. It's like watching two planets in orbit, always pulling at each other, even when they seem worlds apart. Watch how the show plays with light and shadow, literally and metaphorically. Those quiet moments in Rue's bedroom, the neon-soaked parties, each scene painting their love in different colors. Sometimes it's tender, sometimes it's desperate, but it's always, always real. This isn't just another teen drama. It's a love letter to messy, complicated, beautiful queer love. To finding yourself in someone else's eyes, even when you're not sure who you are yet. To loving someone through their darkness and letting them love you through yours. The L Word, Generation Q. 10 years after the original series shook up television, The L Word, Generation Q brings us back to Los Angeles with familiar faces and fresh stories that prove lightning can strike twice. This isn't your mother's L Word. It's bolder, more diverse, and tackles modern love with unflinching honesty. Bette Porter is back, and she hasn't lost an ounce of that magnetic intensity. But now she's running for mayor while juggling single motherhood and a complicated love life. Watch how she navigates romance in the public eye. It's like watching a chess master play blindfolded, thrilling and terrifying all at once. Shane returns too, opening a gay bar called Dana's. Grab your tissues. That name choice hits hard. She's still got that irresistible charm, but there's something different now. When she meets Kiara, we see a Shane who might finally be ready for something real. Their dance around commitment is like watching a flame try to decide if it wants to be a wildfire. Enter our new generation. Danny and Sophie's relationship challenges everything we thought we knew about modern love. Their story isn't just about romance, it's about class, culture, and choosing between dreams and desire. When Finley enters the picture, things get deliciously complicated. It's like watching a tightrope walk over a pool of feelings. The show weaves old and new storylines together like a master tapestry maker. Alice hosts a talk show now, because of course she does, turning her legendary chart into primetime entertainment. Her relationship with Nat brings all kinds of delightful chaos, especially when Gigi enters the picture. Three's company never looked so intriguing. What makes Generation Q special is how it handles the quiet moments between the drama. Those stolen glances across crowded rooms, the weight of unspoken words, the way love stories unfold in Los Angeles sunshine and shadow. It's familiar enough to feel like coming home, but fresh enough to keep you guessing. The real magic? Watching these characters navigate love in a world that's changed dramatically since we last saw them. Some things are easier now, some are harder, but the heart wants what it wants. And this show isn't afraid to let it want complicated things. First kill. When Romeo and Juliet meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you get First Kill. A story where the only thing more dangerous than falling in love is falling for your natural enemy. Meet Juliet, a teenage vampire trying to delay her first kill, and Calliope, a monster hunter's daughter preparing for her first hunt. The universe has a wicked sense of humor, because when these two lock eyes across their high school hallway, fate doesn't care about family feuds or ancient blood rights. Their first kiss? Electric. Until Juliet's fangs come out and Calliope pulls a knife. Talk about dating complications. But here's the thing. When your heart wants what it wants, even centuries of hatred between vampires and hunters can't stop true love. Watch how they dance around each other, every touch both thrilling and terrifying. Each secret meeting could end in a kiss or a kill. Their families would rather see them dead than together, but that just makes every stolen moment more precious. The show cranks up the tension when Juliet's vampire legacy collides with Calliope's hunting heritage. Dark family secrets emerge, brother turns against sister, and our star-crossed lovers find themselves at the center of a supernatural war. Yet somehow between the blood feuds and betrayals, Juliet and Calliope's love burns brighter than ever. First Kill reminds us that sometimes the most revolutionary act is choosing love over destiny, even if that love might get you killed. So, what do you think about these groundbreaking shows? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, keep watching, keep thinking, and most importantly, keep questioning the systems that try to tell us who we can and cannot love.